What's up, guys? So I'm going to record part 3 and I'm going to get that up, and then I'm going to do part 4 after I started making notes and stuff for the last part of the water change videos. If I did the whole chemical part together, it was going to be a pretty extensive video, so we're going to do it in 2 separate parts. So we're going to start part 3, just a touch. We've been doing a little series on why we do water changes. You know, first part was just the basics. Second part was bringing a little more of the chemical aspect in it. This part's going to be, we're going to discuss the KH, the pH, GH, and the big 3, and explain what a water change will do to those parameters in some situations. And then the fourth part, we'll talk about temperature and oxygen. And if you hear me sniffling a little bit, I apologize, but it's the allergies have been horrendous for me this summer down here, so a little stuffed up. If you hear me sniffling or a little cough here and there, I apologize. But the first thing we're going to get into is you have to remember, when you start talking about water changes and how aggressive you're going to be with water changes, you always want to make sure that you're testing your source water. Your source water is going to have a different pH. Source water is going to have a different KH. Is it hard water? Is it soft water? Okay, so a few different things you got to figure out. Like, I have a soft water or a hard water softener. I turn it off when I do my water changes, so it bypasses it, so I'm getting hard water. Okay. Our water, luckily, here is pretty good. The only thing I have a problem with is the high pH. Other than that, the mineral content is good. It's like I said, we got pretty decent water. So we're going to look at the pH thing first. Now, the numbers I'm going to give you are for simple math. That is it. This is not recommendations. This is not what I think certain levels should be. This is literally for simple math. Let's say your pond is at a 7 pH. If your source water is at 10 pH, and let's say you do a 50% change, so you have a 1,000-gallon pond, the pH of that 1,000 gallons is a 7. The pH of your source water is 10. You change out 500 gallons. By the time you're done, your pH is roughly going to be around an 8.5, because you had 7, taking half of that out and replacing 50% of that water with 10 pH. So that's going to increase the amount of pH in that water by 50%. So 50% of 3, because from 7 to 10 is 3. 50% of that is 1.5. So you're going to be increasing your pH in your 1,000-gallon pond by 1.5 pH if you did a 50% water change. So those are things you have to think of, because that is a pretty quick increase in your pH. So that's another reason you want to do more frequent, less volume water changes, so you're not fluctuating those parameters as much. The next thing, your KH and your GH. A lot of times you're going to put these relatively in the same category. It's really hard to test the difference between the two. But the biggest thing for us is KH. We need to establish a decent KH somewhere between that 120 mark and 200. 120 parts per million, 200 parts per million. A lot of the hobbyists will use, baking soda to help buffer that pH. Or sorry, that KH, I'm sorry. So, if you're using hard water and you do a water change, you're going to be reintroducing depleted minerals from that hard water into your water, which is a good thing. Stuff like calcium, stuff like magnesium, other natural minerals that exist within the water. There is going to be some levels of iron, there is going to be some levels of copper, but they're very minuscule. iron and copper are not very good for koi, but the amount that you're going to get in your source water is going to be so low that it really isn't going to matter. So reintroducing that calcium and that magnesium is going to bring up your GH. It's going to help buffer your pH a little bit, and it's going to help increase your KH. Now, if it was soft water, you're going to be doing the opposite. In some cases, the more that your water's in the pond, if you have a Baki shower and it's running through, you know, your rock and your ceramic, it's going to harden it up a little bit. So if you're using soft water, you're going to be bringing those values down a little bit. You're not going to have calcium and magnesium in there. So then you're going to want to add some type of clay or mineral supplement, okay? The big three: ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate. Now again, if your filtration system is working correctly, you should not have to worry about ammonia. But if you do, water changes will take that ammonia out. Again, you have to know what your source water has. If you have well water, you could have ammonia in there. Some city water will have, municipal water will also have ammonia in there. Chloramine is the combination of chlorine and ammonia, okay? So you're going to have some ammonia present in some source water. So you want to check that. But if you don't, your source water is good and you have an ammonia problem in your pond, a water change will help dilute that ammonia and get some ammonia out. It'll do the exact same thing with nitrite. It'll help get some of it out and it'll dilute what is still in there. Again, you want to stay away from doing too much because you're going to create too much of a change. Even with ammonia and nitrite at low levels, consistency is still better than spikes, okay? Consistency is still better. Now this is low level. We're talking trace amounts. We're not talking 2 parts per million or whatever, because if you're that high, yes, change as much as you can, as frequently as you can to get that out. KH fluctuations will be hard on fish. pH fluctuations will be hard on them, but in most cases will not kill them. Ammonia nitrite will. So again, this is just for trace amounts. Nitrate, in most cases, will be left in your pond. So again, we're going to use the same 1,000 gallon pond. Let's say I have 40 parts per million nitrate, okay? If I'm taking out half the water, now I have 20 parts per million. If I'm adding in fresh water with no nitrate in it, I'm going to be diluting that nitrate from 20 parts per million down to 10 parts per million, okay? Because I am basically doubling the amount of water that the nitrite is in. So it's going to be diluting that nitrate down by 50%. So that's another thing water changes do. It helps keep the nitrate in check, low at safe levels. So again, just to recap a little bit on this stuff. When it comes to your pH, your KH, your GH, and the big three, source water, what the parameters of your source water is very important to understand, because you're going to be adding or diluting or removing some chemical aspect of your pond water and adding a different chemical combination from your source water into that pond. So again, very important to do the water changes. That's what this series is all about. So if you guys have any questions on any of this video, please let me know. Please post them in the comments. I'm going to wrap up this video and I'm going to go on to doing video number for part 4. So I'll try to get them both up today if I can. And then that series will be done with. So I got all my notes here so I won't forget anything for the 4th part. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the subscribers. It's I think I'm at 325, 330. Very cool. So as always, keep on improving, keep on investing. We'll see you in part 4. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.